not like the O-line is just moving in transfers and that's all they got. You got young guys. You got Carius Kern. You got Solomon Thomas. You even got younger guys like Paul Mubenga who can slide in, who saw some time last season in his first year in the SEC. But all in all, offensive line, kind of a worry, something that I think initially piqued my interest. But I think as you go through spring, as you go through fall, as you get closer to that Clemson game, you're going to start to see the finalized lineup, and you're going to start to kind of get more confidence. Another thing I want to talk about real quick, the center position. I mean, whenever Braylon Moore decides to come to LSU, everybody had kind of just assumed that's your starting center, and DJ Chester's either going to move, positions, or he just was going to hit the portal. That was the assumption. Now, naturally, as spring has gone underway, you've seen DJ Chester kind of stick around at that center spot, especially at center one in the rotations that we've seen. Now, is it because of consistency? Is it because of that's what they've been used to? Is he getting cross-trained? I don't know. Time will only tell. But there is a couple of spots on LSU's offensive line that are not finalized in terms of they're still probably battling it out. Center's going to be one of them. Him and Braylon Moore, I think, could play either guard or center. And whatever one doesn't wind up being the center will probably be right next to the other in that guard position. But time will continue to tell. Time will continue to see how this room evolves. Another one of the concerns, nothing major, nothing big. I would say it would be the wide receiver height. And I like the talent that you have in that wide receiver room. I like the pieces that you're able to put together. But I do want to talk about the fact that everybody's criticizing Garrett Nussmeier because of the gunslinging absence, right? Everybody's saying, where is the gunslinger? Where's the deep passes? Where's this? Where's that? I mean, we can address this a million times. Garrett Nussmeier threw for more yards than pretty much any quarterback in LSU's history in their first starting year. If you look at the first year starting in totality and how many yards they threw, Garrett Nussmeier threw more than your last two Heisman winning quarterbacks in their first season. It's not saying he's going to take the mantle and be a Heisman as well. I don't want to put that pressure on, but all I'm going to say is he's got the tools. He's got the capabilities. He's got the skills to be able to put LSU's offense in that situation. What do you do, though? If you don't have the 6'4" piece, the 6'5" piece, the big vertical threat, what do you do? Last year, I think it was a similar situation. You want him to throw the ball deep, but he needs options to throw it deep. I mean, he didn't have Chris Hilton in the beginning of the season with the injuries, and quite frankly, the biggest option he had was Kyron Lacy, who's 6'2", and that's a very similar spot that what they can be in right now. When the only two options you have over 6'3" are Nick Anderson, Kylan Billiot. Other than that, everybody's 6 foot, 6'1", 6'2". I think Chris Hilton's 6'1", Barry Brown's 6 foot. You've got a similar situation. And I'm not saying you're going to have a similar result because I do think that there is something to be said for Garrett Nussmeier coming back and being comfortable and having a year under his belt. It definitely will have a progression, a natural progression at that. But I think it will benefit, or he will benefit from having one of those vertical options that he's going to be able to look at. Chris Hilton's going to be the X factor. If he's healthy, if he's out there on the field, if he's going to be able to be, in that spot, on the other side of an Aaron Anderson, on the other side of a Trey Green, kind of making that defense play true and honest, then, yeah, I think the gunslinger ability is going to be able to be used despite the lack of height. However, if Chris Hilton isn't up to speed, then common sense is going to tell you Nick Anderson's getting in because of size. 100%. The rotation could look, this is my guess. This is what I think is going to be finalized. Chris Hilton, Aaron Anderson, Nick Anderson. However, I'm going to put an asterisk at Nick Anderson because I do think it's very similar to the offensive line situation. The transfers are fighting for their roles. They're not just getting it given to them. They're not just showing up at LSU and here you go, here's a starting spot. No. But when you've got talent like a Nick Anderson, a Barry Brown, pieces of that nature, I do think that they are going to have a pretty damn hard time keeping the best players, the skill rotation off of the field. I mean, it's going to come down to who matches up the best. And I think there's going to be some names here. Barry Brown's going to be one of them that could potentially force his way into that three. A Chris Hilton, Aaron Anderson, and Barry Brown trio, especially when you put Trey Green mixed in when he's going to be the tight end line down wide, that's a damn hard rotation to grab. Now, obviously, like we said, it's going to be very similar to offensive line rotation where it's not going to be anything other than penciled in until South Carolina or, Clemson when you make the trip to South Carolina. It will be one of those interesting things to watch Cortez Hankton continue to piece this room together.